welcome to our session, everyone. Greg Kahn, who was scheduled to moderate, is unable to be with us today, so I'm going to step in for him. This panel is all media is social media, from video, music, and movies to user communications. The social platforms are definitely the gateways. And with every upgrade to every device and platform, the consumer experience intensifies. So the panel here comes from a very diverse amount of backgrounds. We have a lot of different takes on this topic. So we'll start with introductions. I'll start with myself. I'm Jill Johnson. I'm the GM of Entertainment Partnerships at Team Whistle. We are Whistle, as it was predominantly known prior, is comprised of 3 different primary areas. That would be as a publisher. As part of the 11 group, Team Whistle publishes to cable, OTT, and social across our O&Os. And we have a premium studio, which does premium short form, long form, scripted and unscripted. And our 3rd vertical is services and agency, where we work with third parties, mainly across distribution, marketing, advertising, media, and monetization. Some of the unique things that we do is that we do boast over 4 billion video views across our O&Os monthly. And with our studio and production teams, we are very much aligned with some of the largest IP out there in television, such as Love Island, Dancing with the Stars, where we align our digital producing teams on the ground with the producers embedded on set to program and publish additional narrative across all social. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm going to move it on over to Lauren.
Hi, nice to see everybody and Happy New Year. My name is Lauren Zellner. I am a talent agent at WME in our digital department. WME is under the Endeavor umbrella company, and WME is a representation business. We represent athletes, public figures, actors, traditional digital talent. We have a literary business. It really spans 360 across everything that we think of as content. And I'm really excited to be here today. I would say my specialty, just sort of for everyone watching, is I sit specifically in our digital group focused on both traditional talent and digital native talent, helping navigate not only building out digital businesses and keeping my thumb on the pulse of everything that's coming up in the digital space, from digital platforms and social media to podcasting, but also helping a lot of our digital native talent cross over into more traditional avenues like acting and other mediums. And I will kick it over to Paul.
Hey, everybody. I'm a little bummed we're not all together in Vegas this week, but it's good that everybody's safe. My name's Paul Suchman. I serve as the Chief Marketing Officer for Odyssey. Odyssey is one of the fastest growing audio content and entertainment companies in the country. Our business is built on traditional broadcast radio stations. We have some of the best radio stations in the biggest markets around the country. We're a top 2 or 3 podcast producer through our studios and the content that we represent on behalf of some of the best talent in the industry. And we have a rapidly growing streaming business and live events business. We serve about 200 million listeners monthly across all of our platforms. It's really a treat to be here. I will go over to Stephanie.
Thanks. I'm also sad to not be in Vegas. I keep getting alerts and reminders, which makes it even sadder. So I'm Stephanie Freed. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Fandom. Fandom is the world's largest fan platform where fans come multiple times per day to immerse themselves in the entertainment and gaming worlds that they love. We have over 250,000 fan communities in every imagined world that you love and want to learn more about. 40 million pages of content created by fans for fans. We also have a direct consumer business in our our role-playing game tabletop business, which is Dungeons and Dragons Beyond, for those of you who play Dungeons and Dragons. All of the best digital tools to play with your friends. And then finally, we have Fanatical, which is an e-commerce gaming retailer.
How about you, Ken?
Awesome. Great to see and be here with everyone. Happy New Year. Ken Blum, SVP Ad Strategy and Partnerships over at BuzzFeed Inc., which I'm pleased to share as of December, now includes BuzzFeed, Tasty, and Lifestyle brands that you may know, HuffPost, BuzzFeed News, and most recently, Complex Networks. So really looking forward to being here and chatting with you all.
Cool. So Ken, while we have you, let's, I think we got everyone correct. Let's dig right into talking to us about how BuzzFeed's take is around social media and the creator economy.
Yeah, sure. I think that there's a lot of debate of the creator economy. What are the tools that a lot of companies are creating for creators to make content? How do you connect brands with that content and with that creator? It's very overwhelming on the brand and advertising side, which is where I spend a lot of my time helping our clients. And it's also overwhelming for creators to keep up with the amount of content that needs to be created to monetize appropriately and create more content for every single platform. So we really view our role as, the publisher having built-in audiences, having tools and expertise and understanding how we move across different platforms, what content works well from Snap to TikTok to whatever platform or whatever audience is going to be working the best at that time. And then connecting that with brands. I think the big piece is, how do you have trust? How do you know that, in a creator-led world and UGC content, if you will, something is brand safe, from what the creator's background is to the content that they're actually producing. And I think that's where publishers can come in, have that built-in audience and sort of pair it with an expectation line of what people are used to seeing or used to sort of seeing from not just a specific brand, but a specific brand on a platform. And so, generally, I think on the social side, as things get more fragmented, and the fragmentation is going to come by different platforms, by different creators, by different handles, and everything that needs to be produced. We really view the publisher side as giving people the right tools to navigate that landscape.
Ken, when it comes to creators and working as a publisher and selling, and creating with brands, et cetera, how does the relationship work primarily for you from an editorial to creator to brand standpoint? Because BuzzFeed has evolved so much over the years.
Right. We kind of view it across the entire stack. You could work with creators who are very closely tied to our Tasty brand, and they are the talent in that content, right? We are going to represent that talent, and we're going to, say that this is something that we could work with you on. But it would be short-sighted to only be representing the talent that lives inside of our content, right? I think that the truth is we need to be working with creators that maybe being born today is a bad analogy, but new creators are popping up on TikTok every day. We shouldn't ignore that. And how do we bring them into, in this example of the Tasty universe, bring them into that universe, give them the exposure to our audience, but also give them the exposure to the brand and make that connection, because there's a like-mindedness about the content. And I do think it needs to start with the audience, and it needs to start with that like-mindedness and sort of expectation line that the audience would agree with. And that's really where you get down to, how do you pair brands with creators, media brands, but now you also need to pair the media brand, the creator, with the actual advertiser. And that's where I think that they need our guidance and hand-holding the most, because not every creator is equal, not every platform is equal. And I think to be able to sort of thread that needle is really, really important.
Hey, Jill, can I ask a question to Ken?
Yeah.
To jump in. Well, Ken, first of all, I love the way Tasty shoots. I love, it's just so visually appealing the way the brand shoots. When you're advising your creators, how do you do that? Like, they're artists, like creators are creators, and you want to give them the freedom to be their very best selves. How do you create those guardrails that keep them advertiser friendly, keep UGC ready for mass distribution, but at the same time, not stymie any of the creativity that lives within them?
I think it's about creating an obsession with signals. Now signals could, dating myself 5-7 years, it was shares or likes or things like that. But if you can get the creators to focus on what is this content feedback loop that's happening, right? The reason we started shooting top down is because we saw that people were watching more of the videos. We saw that if you should introduce the face, you kind of lost the user, right? So there's reasons why we created certain formats, and every creator is looking at all of those signals. What's the engagement I got? Did I hit the right audience? Did I get the right connections? Did a celebrity find this content, right? Like all of those things. So creating tools that show the creators the signals and not giving them the playbook that says you must make this or you must make that. I think this is where brands start to have a bit of a challenge, because they come in and say, I want really polished content and I want the lighting to be great. And the reality is great lighting doesn't make great content. And so sometimes like highly produced things aren't the things that are working really well on social. So there's a balance. And I think that what you should try to do is understand the signals that the creators can sort of focus on, make that a brand success metric as well. And then also sort of thread the needle between allowing the creators to do their thing and then also allowing the content that the brand wants to be created and the message they want to be making, do both. And many things will work. And as you guys know, this is social. It's about having a lot of opportunities, a lot of shots on goal, and but before you're to get them. And I think that's the piece that you're kind of walking and talking with the brand and giving them that sort of hand-holding experience.
So Lauren, you represent a lot of the pieces of these areas over at William Morris. So you're looking at from celebrity talent to creator to brand to et cetera. I'd be interested to know, like, how much of this business and celebrity are you growing from a creator standpoint, in a percentage standpoint? And also how is your celebrity talent starting to view this type of work versus the traditional TV and film?
Well, I think what we've sort of, predicted a few years back, and we're seeing it more and more as the years go by, and especially with the pandemic, I think it really expedited it. But that line between traditional media and digital content has really blurred. And I think we're going to continue to see more and more digital native talent cross over into the traditional sphere. But in terms of the more celebrity public figure talent that's coming out of more of the traditional space, they're really looking at their digital platforms as a place to curate and grow their digital businesses. I think it's a really great tool for them because it's the first time where they're really able to be in charge of their narrative and control the persona that they want to put out in the world, as well as show a different side of their personality, and try different things they've never really tried before, get direct feedback from their audience.
Do you find that a number of the artists, and maybe this is going more towards demographic as well, and obviously there, generations that grew up with technology and others that did not, is how important is it to them to control that narrative and that creative as opposed to having it managed by others and really become a data-driven piece of their business?
I think it's increasingly important. I think that there's obviously a lot of different companies out there that are really great social media management companies. There's a lot of third-party production companies that do a really fantastic job that are experts with different platforms. But I think that the one theme that we've seen is that the artist or the talent really does want to be in control of their persona. And rather than them handing off their business, it's really about delegating and making sure that, yes, I'm hiring this person, whether it's to bring them in-house or I'm hiring this company, like I still have a massive stake and I still can completely control what is being put out there about me. But it's really taking off the burden, because as we all know, this is a full-time job and there are so many talent out there that are now creating their businesses from scratch using these platforms and using this really as the place where they're going to leverage everything that they do going forward.
Paul, so is there any connection to what Lauren is saying and what's going on in the podcast space?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about that as Lauren was talking about these artists and these talents really crossing media. You can almost think about podcasts as long form social media, particularly the unscripted shows by the bigger stars, because it's informal, It's free thought. It's very conversational in tone. They often have companion websites where comments are coming in and they're addressing things in real time. Even the advertising can be organic when they're more than live reads, because most of these, and Lauren, you probably know better than I, most people, most talent who are delivering content in podcast form aren't going to bring an advertiser in whom they don't personally believe in and support. And then they speak about it with just such authenticity. So we're seeing podcasts have become a way in social media for content creators to share their voice, to converse, to connect with their audiences in really the most authentic ways possible. And that was previously reserved for just pure social platforms. And now podcast is where they're building some of those biggest connections with audiences. I don't know, Lauren, if you're seeing that, if you're hearing that, in your day-to-day.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think to your point about it just really being long form content, something too that we've seen that's been really successful. And I think we're sort of at the beginning of it and it's going to grow, is the vodcast idea, having that video component, because as much as, audio only is wonderful, especially if you're commuting or if you're multitasking, I think a lot of audiences still really, really love that video component. I think it's almost, when we talk to our clients about creating their own podcasts or clients that already have them, it's almost like creating their own talk show. We're starting to see these elaborate sets and it's just becoming something so much larger than, what it started as. And, starts as a seed of an idea and it kind of becomes and evolves into something larger. And I think that also applies across the content that, our talent are creating across all of these different platforms, whether it's short form or long form. But I do think that's a massive reason why podcasting has been so successful.
And we're doing the same exact thing, actually, with even just traditional radio talent who are celebrities in the local markets, whether it's LA, Chicago, New York. A lot of our talent are filming shows now, and it's being broadcast at the same time, or video clips are being updated, are being brought up there. And it's even more opportunities for advertisers and more ways for advertisers to connect with more audiences. So I love hearing that. Thanks for sharing that.
It feels so much like old school radio, doesn't it?
Totally.
But what's interesting though, what's interesting that I would like to explore as well when it comes to podcasts, and then I want to move on to the fans, is how much when you're working with talent, because it's coming from a number of different directions here, specifically Paul and Lauren. Podcasts really, like, traditionally aren't seen unless, again, in a more larger grouping, like with the Spotify or an Apple or those other distributed methods. How much of that do you look at as a solid, like, business direction for talent when it comes to, from a business standpoint? Like, how do you view it, though? They have an interesting topic to talk about. Is it in hopes that they're going to develop something that goes larger to television and film? Like, how do you view podcasts from a business standpoint for a creator?
I think that it really depends on the creator and what the series is or what the podcast is. I represent somebody who started creating YouTube content, and she has a series that's really heavily researched, and she, I don't want to say she scripts it, but she hits beats. And that series turned into a podcast. And I think a lot of talent we're starting to see are looking at podcasting as the sort of, I don't want to say the end goal, but a piece of their larger 360 business. Some people, as you said, are taking, creating podcasts with the idea of creating a talk show and selling it to a network. I think, it's all very custom. It depends on what the talent's goal is. And a big part of my job is to help strategically figure out how to kind of guide clients to whatever their desired path is. But I wouldn't ever look at a podcast as necessarily just a stepping stone. I mean, podcasting is massive. These deals are massive. People are blowing up, as I'm sure you guys have seen, these massive 8-figure deals in the trades. It's a huge, and I mean, Paul can probably speak to it better than I can, but it's a huge business. And I don't think that I would ever want to think of it as just like a smaller piece. I think it's really here to stay.
Yep, I would absolutely agree with that. And I think, there's so many different types of podcasts out there. There's the scripted ones, there's the serial ones. And what Lauren is talking about, and Jill, I think you were asking about, is talent specifically, and like, big name talent having podcasts. What we're seeing is it's really, those big name talents, they're brands in and of themselves. They could be small brands, niche brands, or big mass market brands. But podcasting is another channel, another part of the palette for them to paint on. And what we're hearing is, from a talent standpoint, they're running to it because they can connect so intimately, so real, so authentically at scale, and do it, on their own terms. And the conversations that they have, are often just some of the best conversations that they're having with their audiences. In terms of the monetizing it, and the other side, advertisers are loving these opportunities. We're seeing as our advertisers come to us to be associated with those brands, but also to be associated with those audiences and to inject their brand into these conversations in more organic ways. So not like a stop set where there's an ad and not even a live read, but again, that brand, that personality is weaving brands into their story. It's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic revenue in for us. It's been fantastic revenue for the talent. And it has been additive to versus detracting from the audience, the fan experience, I think.
So speaking of the fan experience, Stephanie, I'd love to hear more about how fandom plays a part. It plays a part in the topics and the celebrities and the creations that they're passionate about within fandom.
Yeah, so I've been listening. This is all super interesting. So I'm excited to be on this panel. Our role really for fans is to power people's fandoms, right? So we bring these imagined worlds to life in a deeper way for fans so that they can get into every single detail of every single imagined world that they love. And what we do, and it's probably a little bit different from a traditional, creator, is our creators are really obsessed with what exists. They're obsessed with the canon, right? They're obsessed with the facts of these worlds. And in fact, anything that diverges from those facts is specifically not allowed. And so, it's a very different type of content, a very different type of creator in terms of what they're, looking to do and what they're looking to share, because they want everything to be super accurate. And we've talked about podcasts actually as well for people who want to go like super deep into everything that happened in Star Trek and every single season, the pieces that even if you've watched it 50 times, you still might not remember. Those are like the details that people love to talk about and discuss. And so, we think that there's a real opportunity there for the, real fans, especially, and I think this is how, COVID has changed things as well, is how people connect and, find each other in the social experience around these shared passions and entertainment. And we find that this works even better in really niche communities where people are looking for people who they might not be able to interact with in real life, but they're able to connect with through fandom and through, fandom social as well. So, for us in the way that we deliver to fans, social is one of those prongs of how we connect fans with their fandoms, and certainly do different things across different platforms to bring that to life for them, because we have a lot of different types of users. We have users who want to spend 3 hours, looking at information about Roy Kent and knowing every single detail. And then there's those who want to settle a bet in a bar and just want a fact or figure to prove someone wrong. And so, we have different ways to pull that information out, and we have different ways that we share that information and the visuals. For us, video is really important as well. certainly because the worlds that we're bringing to life are sight, sound, and motion worlds, whether it's gaming or TV or movies. And so, we want to bring that to life through, again, that detail through Hey Fandom, our series where we interview, people who have written, who have acted in, show run series, and what are those details that no one really knows, how this was made or how this came together or what fell through or what changed at the last minute. Because that's the information that our fans are really looking for, to be those experts and to get like more out of what they love.
How do you work with distributors or IP holders to help them promote their content?
Yeah, in a lot of different ways. We, certainly, have traditional advertising, and we have, great data, which we call Fan DNA, where, we understand across 20 years and every gaming, TV, movie community, what character people love, what episode they love, and what detail about that episode. And we can connect the dots across all of those and understand why that's resonating with people and where you're going to be able to find your audience. So we have, really great relationships with all of the IP holders because of that. We also have a lot of official communities. So it's funny, I worked at NBCU a long time ago, I don't know, 15 years ago. But when we were there, one of the things we always learned was that people wanted more information on the characters. And that just wasn't the business we were in. We were developing our full episode video player. We wanted to do, big viewing experiences, right? Which is continued today. The rest of the information was kind of secondary for us. That's where Fandom can add a lot of value as the official partner. And so we do a lot of seeding of communities. So we get the videos and the scripts in advance, and we're able to build that out so that when that show starts and someone wants to understand what The Witcher is all about, especially with complex storylines, that's there for them. And that makes them a bigger fan. So we really fuel that interest. We fuel someone getting to the next level of the game, right, where they're stuck. And so we have really great relationships from a content perspective as well, from an advertising perspective and custom content, which, we've been talking a lot about here as well, but how we, create other series. We have honest trailers, which are very popular. We do honest ads as well with those. And we do just a ton of great content, interaction, interview shows. We have a trivia series as well. And so advertisers love to be incorporated with that because it's very organic for them and very native for them.
Not everybody can do a Talking Dead, right?
That's right.
I can't tell you how many arguments have been settled in my house through your content. Like, we just, like, Succession is like, there was like, my wife and I would just battle all the time about what was happening, and we got our answers right there. So thank you.
Yeah, I hope you won those arguments.
I lost every single one.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, we have a segmentation, and one of our segments is called the Barbette group, because there's so many of those people who are like, wait a second, no, that's not true. And, they're going in to find those facts. And, you were talking, Paul, about, audio and the use cases for audio versus, text and typing. And that's one of the big ones too, right? Is being able to just ask those questions and get those answers directly, which, we're able to, serve that need through Fandom. So
I would say even more than that, like the quality of some of the content being created now is just so sophisticated and just, so complex and so layered and so nuanced that you almost need, you need the wiki, you need the guide to help even understand it and give it more. Like, I've gone back and rewatched after reading your content.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Speaking of like NBC too, we started posting full episodes of complex shows because people weren't coming back because they forgot what happened, or they'd get stalled in episode 1. And that is a role that we play, is getting up to speed, which is actually another segment where people come back because they don't really remember. It was a year ago. Now, sometimes it was 3 years ago when the last season was available, right? And so you want to go back, you want to remember everything. We have Cram It, also a series that you should check out, where in video you can actually see this. And I went to a Stranger Things event, an immersive world experience, and I never watched the show. And so I used our Cram It and our wiki to get up to speed. And I knew more than the other people. They like watch the show and I don't. And I knew every character. I knew every storyline. I was like an expert. So yeah, it's great for that.
I mean, you're selling me on what I'm going to be doing the rest of the day instead of work.
Awesome.
I think actually the fact that when you're talking about your section of bar bet, I mean, I would actually come back and say, are you going to start a bet book?
Oh gosh. Well, if everyone else isn't already doing it, potentially it's a good business for sure. So
Growing for us. It's definitely like hot for 2022.
Oh yeah.
Are you going that direction, Paul?
We do, as you know, we have sports is a big piece of our platform. We acquired a company last year called BetQL, which gives lots of analytics, lots of data, it helps bettors bet better. And we have found a lot of growth in our subscription service, and particularly as more markets, more cities, more states legalize online betting. Our content is just traveling faster, traveling farther, and we're distributing it. It's obviously audio content, but we're distributing a lot of it digitally in lockstep with the audio, with the podcast we're making, with the live audio we're creating, with the bet specific content. So absolutely. Yeah,
we're actually at Team Whistle. We're working with a number of bet book entities. And their biggest thing is creating compelling content that people want to immerse themselves in and get deeper and deeper into the bet books, and especially creating live. So, for studios, which we do have the, premium studio division, we're able to, and live is something that we've done traditionally extremely well. We're finding that we have a number of bet books coming to us to create live bet opportunities so that they can get the timestamps and do it appropriately. So I'm excited about that space in entertainment, reality, and sport. Not that I'm a betting person myself, but but you do immerse yourself to some extent, right? So for example, Fox Bet, where they're not legal in states, is doing a number of different giveaways and just trying to immerse people in polling. Facebook has now come into more of the polling space, as they ready themselves for betting. So I definitely think it's going to be a different world in coming into 2022. One of the questions that Greg had put forth to ask me, and I think it would be interesting to get some of your take, Ken, as well, is, asking how third-party partnerships, because we do work with a lot of third parties to monetize and distribute across our distributed channels, how much that has changed or stayed the same in the last 2 years. And one of the things that we have seen, that media consumption time does tend to move more to smaller screens and formats. And obviously monetization is becoming a bigger and bigger deal. We have over 50 plus channels that we produce for on Snap Discover. That business is not slowing down. And also what I love is that it's very much feels like TV distribution back in the 90s and the 2000s. Some of us might actually remember some of those decades. I'll speak for myself. Is that how we're able to go take archive material and reimagine it and reproduce it into short form, short form content and remonetize. And nostalgia, we've seen nostalgia is like a major play across platforms. But what have you seen or experienced, Ken, if that feels any different?
No, that feels really similar. I mean, I think there's a curation layer to content, and even UGC content being something that is really popular and growing and monetizing. But I think a lot of what we've been talking about too is that holy grail. To get someone to listen to that hour-long podcast, you also need short form, you need discovery, you need to be on every single platform to move them down the funnel of what is a truly I would call listening to that podcast through your AirPods a pretty intimate experience. And that might start with someone seeing something on short form, getting to know the celebrity or the talent or that it exists. And then how do you move them all the way down to something that would be a more intimate behavior, or longer form, video watching on YouTube is very different than that of shorts or anything else that we're doing. So I think that there's been a lot of optimization per platform, which needs to exist. The way you optimize for Snap is going to be different than the way you optimize for another platform. But now, how do you put it all together? And how do you think about like an entire funnel and experience that maybe the same user is seeing you across all these different platforms, or you're just trying to get to that core niche group of users, kind of to the point we're talking about before. Niche and community is going to be the future, and it's going to have its moment as the web gets more fragmented.
I wanted to add to that too, because what you just talked about with the syndicating content across all of these different platforms was a massive theme of 2021 for a lot of our clients. And I would even say we started seeing a lot of it in 2020. I think platforms, from the creator point of view and through that window, they're starting to become savvy to how tedious content creation is. And they want to compete, they want to show up, they want to be the platform that creators go to. So I think, to both of your point, what we've seen a lot is platforms coming to us saying, hey, your client has a great library of content. We want them to bring it onto our platform. We don't care that it's already on YouTube, or we don't care that it's already on TikTok. We want you on our platform. We want you to grow your audience here. And there's different business models, per different platform. And there's all these, really great production partners that are also becoming savvy to this. And I'm sure you guys at Whistle Sports and BuzzFeed are both very, in the weeds on all of this and could speak to this as well. But it's a huge thing that a lot of our creators have really leaned into and are continuing to lean into. And I think it's going to continue to grow in 2020. I think, to your point about, 2022, Snapchat, I think, has done a really magnificent job of recognizing this. And I think that, they've done a really fantastic job of tapping into that Gen Z audience. And it's been really great because a lot of our clients are able to continue growing their audience and really tapping into different generations and different demographics on each platform. But it also just makes it a generally lighter lift, so they can continue to expand without having to feel like they need to create so much custom content, which I think has been a really, really big pain point for a lot of creators.
Well said. And that's going to move us right into predictions. So Lauren, do you want to, I know you kind of touched upon predictions. What does 2022 going into 23 feel like?
I think more of that. And I don't want to speak too much about this, because it's something that I've recently started to dip my toe into. And I actually just got an Oculus over the weekend, but I think that we're just going to see more and more and more with the metaverse. I think it's fascinating. I think it's terrifying at the same time. The lens that I think we'll first see it more in is sort of like the gaming world, because I think those are the people that are going to gravitate more naturally toward those, types of experiences. But I think the metaverse we're going to hear a lot about it in 2023.
You can go work out right now with an Oculus and Tiffany Haddish. So nothing's got to be more fun than that. How about you, Paul?
Sorry, I was muted as instructed, Jill. I was thinking about this question. I knew we were going to talk about it. I was going to go to the metaverse, but Lauren beat me there. She's in the metaverse now, clearly. I've got a couple that I'll share. One is, we there was a couple of years where there was this theme about the Internet of Things and everything was going to be internet enabled. And I guess my whole world is so audio focused now. We're really seeing, like, if it was IoT, it's now becoming AOT, the audio of things. And audio is becoming embedded in everything. It's in your car, it's in your home, it's in your toaster, it's in your phone. So we're seeing that. You're going to see a lot more voice controlled application to the way you do things, particularly as we move away from a screenless world and computing becomes more voice led than keyboard led. So I think that's one thing. And you touched on the second one that I was actually thinking about. And this idea of connected fitness, I think, is going to become real. I don't know if anyone was shopping over the holiday period, but there's the tonal system. That's the one that LeBron is behind. I demoed it I was in a Nordstrom and I demoed it's unbelievable. I mean, how awesome it is. And I think that this idea of connected fitness is going to become very real, particularly if we stay in a distributed world the way this year has started off.
How about you, Ken?
Well, I thought if I started the answer with Web3 and NFTs, I had a good shot at a strong prediction. But I think yes, there's a hype cycle to a lot of that stuff. But I think what it will do is prove and teach to a lot of us that like the future of community and how you curate that community is what's really important, right? So yes, owning a piece of the internet and then you feeling more passion toward it and then content being created out of that is very exciting. And I think there's going to be a small pocket and a lot of conversation around that. But it's what it's going to teach brands, what it's going to teach publishers and teach creators is that taking care of that community and being less broadcast and actually being a little bit closer to the audience.
Stephanie.
Yeah, so I wanted to stay away from the word metaverse, but I'll probably talk around it a little bit because, you know, I think that, and we've seen this too, and, you know, I think the past few years have been particularly interesting because people have changed and evolved, I think, more quickly than they would have outside of COVID. And we've seen, you know, people at first kind of go really broad. And then in this past year, we've seen people go really deep into the things that they feel really connected to and passionate about. And we've been, you know, developing around that, you know, quizzes and hubs and places to kind of keep all of that information together, your like fan identity. And I think that we're gonna go beyond the talking about it, you know, opining on it, sharing it, debating it, and really start experiencing it and participating in it in a different way. Now, metaverses, you know, can be that, although I also think, like Ken, to your point, who knows, but I do think there's a little bit of hype and I don't see that happening in the next month. Certainly, I guess nobody does. But I think it'll be a while. You know, we talked about connected TVs for like 15 years before it was actually here. And so, but I do think we are starting to see an acceleration into a lot of virtual experiences and immersion in a different way, even as yourself just in front of Zoom without an Oculus, where you're able to participate in those storylines and be part of that world that you love and connect with people who love it just as much. And I think we'll see a lot more of that. And I think certainly as the metaverse evolves and as people are able to actually literally physically participate in that, that will continue to evolve. But I think we'll start seeing things go in that direction more virtually, in person too, but virtually, where people get into this entertainment, they get into the world in a very different way and participate.
Yeah, I think a lot of the basics still stay the same. It's just how we execute them. And I'm going to be driving an EV SUV in 2022. And as much new, cool technology we can get into. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of this topic. And thank you, Victor and Digital Hollywood, for enabling us to be here. And I think that's pretty much it. So I think that we can wish everyone adieu. And I hope you enjoyed the discussion.